When I was a boy, my dad took me to a Louis Armstrong concert, and I was able to get Louis Armstrong's autographed and Marty Napoleon, and that was that's been the highlight of me, playing music. It was quite encouraging too. I lost those autographs during the Hurricane Katrina. Yeah, I play many genres. I've recorded with different artists. I've played big band music with Dave Bartholomew and the William Houston Orchestra. So people talk about this one created jazz and that, and this, man, look, I bring it way back to the 1700s when Bach wrote songs, and he wrote songs for the church. Yeah, my name is Rickie Monie. I'm a pianist. Actually, I majored in woodwinds when I was in college, so I'm a clarinet player also. And also organist. I studied pipe organ when I was in college. My father he was an amateur pianist, but he played well enough to play in the church. And my mother played also. She never did any outside of the house performances, but she would play around at home. And she could read music. She could read 4-part harmony. So yeah, I grew up around music. I was born in the Ninth Ward. Yeah, and in the street that I lived on, there were several musicians. Pianist Roosevelt Sykes, Frank Parker, a drummer that used to play at Preservation Hall, and he played with a lot of other bands around town. Mm-hmm. Ernie Ellie, a drummer, he didn't stay too far from where I lived. Well, church music was actually started in the fields, in the slave fields, And there's a correlation, there's a connection between the blues and church music and jazz. When the slaves would be out in the fields picking cotton or whatever they would be doing, they would sing certain phrases, which meant it was certain messages. Could be a meeting, certain place tonight or whatever, and they would come up with these different what do you call them? Different riffs. Da 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 da. It's like I don't sing, so excuse that. But they were actually singing like blues scales and not even knowing it. It was just coming from here. And so when you hear church music, you hear blues runs, fill-ins, and of course, if you hear the blues, you're definitely going to hear the blues. Jazz, it's no jazz without blues. So it's used, and even in bluegrass, they use the blues scale. I was actually influenced a lot by, I got bits and pieces from everybody that I listened to. So I can't say anyone in particular. I grew up listening to records of Art Tatum and Oscar Peterson, Dave Brubeck, Teddy Wilson, and and New Orleans musicians, you have Dr. John, you have, all these other guys, man. It's just, and the Roosevelt Sykes lived right around the corner from me. So I'd walk around the neighborhood, he'd been in his house playing a piano with his door open, and I'd listen to that, And so I guess maybe that's why I'm able to play so many different styles, because I've been exposed to, at an early age, different styles of music. The role of the pianist in a traditional jazz band is to maintain the structure of the song. I'm playing the chords according to the structure of the song. That's my role. If I'm playing with a banjo, it's because he's usually playing 4 on his banjo. So that makes me have to kind of play 4, and especially when he starts to solo, sometimes I'll do, 1 and 3 or 2 and 4. I try to stay out of, it's a musical conversation that we're all having, because if you listen to New Orleans traditional jazz, nobody's reading music. Everybody's playing something different, but it all makes sense. Everybody has a duty. The trumpet player plays the melody, the clarinet player plays a counter melody, the trombone player plays a supportive role, like a baritone in a choir. Of course, the drummer keeps the beat. Bass player actually sets the groove and stays on the bottom of the chords that I play on the piano, which maintains the structure of the song. But when you put it all together, you have what's called music, what's called New Orleans jazz, if you're playing a New Orleans jazz piece. It's, like I said, it's a musical conversation that goes. Everybody needs to stay in their lane because you have a certain obligation, you have a certain duty within a band. When I first started at Preservation Hall, let me tell you, the Olympia Brass Band used to play at Preservation Hall on Sunday nights. And Sunday nights was Sweet Emma Barrett's night to play. She was the house pianist. And she would be there playing the piano. And I had never been to Preservation Hall. The guys out of the Olympia Brass Band, Milton Baptiste and Harold Dejon, they invited me to come. They said, you need to come hang out at Preservation Hall and listen to the guys over there. And so I went, I came, and I enjoyed the music, and I met Sweet Emma Barrett. And like I said, she had a different way of playing the piano. She played very strong for a lady, and she wore some bells around her, a garter bells around her ankle, and around her calf, and she'd stump her foot and just keep the time, and the bells would be going in the band. It'd be a great thing, nice groove. Well, Sweet Emma became ill, and they called me in to see if I could substitute for her. This was back in 1982. And I was able to fit in with the band. I had a lot to learn. And I not only played with the Olympia Band, I played alongside of Percy and Willie Humphrey, Norvin Kimball. I played with a lot of those older guys, and I learned a lot of music because a lot of the music that they played was from the turn of the century. And there was no music to read, so we had to learn by ear, learn to listen and play. I traveled all over the world with the Olympia Brass Band. I had a double gig with them because I played clarinet in that band, and also when there was what we used to call society engagement, which meant that it was a sit-down engagement, the band wasn't marching, I would play piano then. It was called Olympia Serenaders. Getting back to the structure of the music and everybody playing something different. besides the melody, which is led by the trumpet player, everybody's doing counter melodies. Counter melodies it's improvisation. So you have to, in order to improv off of a song, improvise off of a song, you have to know the structure of the song, because that's your roadmap. You have to know where to go next. When the chord changes, you don't play to stay on the same passage, musical passage. So you have to change, you know. So it's all about improvisation. That's what it's built on. Even, you know, a lot of people talk about improvisation, but, you know, improvisation, I think, started way back in the Baroque period in the 1700s, and that's proven by Johann Sebastian Bach when he wrote this piece, Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. If you ever listen to that song, it played at a lot of weddings. Da 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 da. So he played that first. Then the second part of that song, not the second part, but over that melody, he played da 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 da. You know, improvisation based off of the main melody of the song. Yeah. So people talk about this one created jazz and that, and this, you know, man, look, I bring it way back to the 1700s when Bach wrote songs, and he wrote songs for the church. So where did improvisation begin? Who knows? Well, what's going on now with the church music, and it's a lot of contemporary music. They're not grounded and rooted in the old tradition of the hymns, like I was raised up. You have these modern guys like Kirk Franklin, and they're playing, you know, a lot of other stuff. But if you bring them back down to the roots, they don't know any of the old songs. Yeah, and it's gonna be a lost thing, the old hymns. That's why during the pandemic, I actually recorded my first CD. And my wife had been on me for years. She said, you need to do your own CD because you're on everybody else's CD. I'm on many, you know, Preservation Hall, this one, that one, that one. And so I would never have time because I'm busy. I'm very busy between the traveling I was doing and my other responsibilities to the city. And when the pandemic hit, she said, you know what, you need to do that CD. And I said, how am I doing a CD? What studio am I gonna go into? And I thought about it. I said, I have nothing but time. I have a friend that's an engineer, so he brought equipment to my house. I have a B3 and a piano at home, and we did the CD right at the house. I have a good friend of mine that had just moved. Well, she hadn't moved yet, but she's living in France now. But Bridget Bazille, she's an opera singer, but she also sings different genres of music. And so her trips to France were canceled, her tour. And I asked her, I said, Bridget, I called on the phone, I said, what you doing tonight? Can you come over and do a couple of songs on my CD? I'm doing a CD. I got Frankie T over here, he's the engineer, and we're gonna get this thing done. So she agreed and she came over, and we put out a CD, man. And which actually, and I put it up for Grammy. I was actually nominated on my first project. Didn't make the final, but I'm a Grammy nominee. I played one song. It was my special arrangement that I did when I was traveling with Preservation Hall. A song entitled "His Eyes on the Sparrow," written way back in 1893 by Charles H. Gabriel. This song, I usually, well, the way I have it arranged, I would do the beginning part of the Warsaw Concerto as a part of the introduction of the song. So I couldn't do that on the organ. So I did that one song on the piano by myself. entertaining an audience or playing for a small set even, a group of people, you get immediate gratification, and it makes you feel good knowing that you're making someone else feel good. Music is therapeutic, so it works on the emotions, you know. And if you play it right, if you don't play it right, it works on somebody's nerves. Let me tell you something about my father, especially my mother. My mother really wanted me to be a musician. I've always wanted to be a mortician. And when it's time for me to go to school, after I graduated from high school, I told my mother, she said, well, what are you going to do now? Where do you want to go to school? I said, well, I want to go to Houston. I want to go to mortuary college. She said, I'm not going to spend a dime for you to go to mortuary school, but I will send you to college to be a musician.